Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Don't Make Me Famous, where we talk about the road to Hollywood for Latinos as I try to navigate it myself. So, today we are going to talk about something a little more specific in terms of what I'm doing here. We are going to talk about fame versus success. So, versus success, right? Do you want to be an actor, an artist, a musician, or do you want to be famous? That's a big distinction to make. A lot of people think that one is equal to the other. They could be, they could be related, but by and large, there's going to be a lot of differences between fame and success. Some of them intersect, some of them do not. So we're going to dive into that today. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, please, the call to action is to like, comment, share, subscribe. Please subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel to a respectable, deserved number. So if we can get that going, that would be fantastic. And yeah, so let's get into it. So let's talk about fame, right? So fame usually means recognition. You know, uh, Actors often gain fame through things like high-profile roles, like big jobs, media coverage, public announcements and appearances. Fame usually brings recognition, but it's not always reflective of an actor's talent or their set of skills per se. So you can have essentially somebody that's famous for something, be it a talk show, be it a podcast, be it a TV show, be it a stage show that they have, a theater thing that they do, or a movie. And they could be famous for all the wrong reasons that are tied to that. So they still are technically that, but it's not necessarily because they were great at it. You could be known for something silly as opposed to also something very, sexualized, and everywhere in between. I mean, there's a lot of room to interpret that and kind of how people fall in terms of, like people think I don't know, for example, Sydney Sweeney, right? She's a beautiful woman, and some people, I think she's fucking talented as fuck. I also think she's a beautiful woman, but there are people who will kind of go on one end of that and just say she's just famous because of her physical appearance. And yeah, that's not to be looked over. I mean, she's an attractive woman, and that's, obviously you're going to get that response from a lot of people, and it's also because of that. So, she got that foot in the door in part because of the visual medium that we're all in, myself included. So, not saying that I'm a beautiful woman, but you get what I'm saying. I hope so anyway. So there's a lot of in between in that. So success to me is achieving a personal goal. You can have multiple layers of success. Success for an actor can mean mastering their craft, or you'll never do that, by the way, because there's always, if you're worth your salt, you'll never master it because there's always going to be something else to aspire to. But yeah, mastering your craft, receiving critical acclaim for a personal fulfillment in roles, basically something that like a passion project. Some people want to play Superman. Some people want to play Batman, and those are like, a certain amount of people have small amount of people have played those roles. For instance, some people will want to play certain theater roles, the out something in The Outsiders. Shout to Kevin. uh, things like that. You name it. I mean, there's a lot of them, and I'm kind of spacing on what they are. But there's just a lot of things that people will like. Oh man, that was just like so fulfilling spiritually and creatively, and they wanna redo Scarface and be the Scarface, be Tony Montana, or you want to be King, you want to play King Lear, and you want to play Othello, and you want to do the marquee characters. So things like that. Those or people like to wanna they want to maybe aspire to be the first of an original lineage of actors who have played like an original part. Insert whatever, right? So yeah, so that, I mean, and again, it varies because some define success through awards, and others through their basically like their artistic growth. I personally think that there's room for both. There's nothing wrong with being awarded if you deserve it, and if it's something that you put your heart and soul into, and it happens to lead to some sort of accolade, great. Nothing wrong with that. I don't find it necessary, but if you just so happen along the road to what you're trying to achieve, you get that, yeah, why not? Absolutely. There are some who do things for that purpose alone, and that I don't agree with. I don't align myself with that school of thought. There's going to be a lot of people who that's like doing something for money. I don't do things for money yet. I will do things for money if it is presented as an opportunity, but that's not my driving force between for what I'm doing. Um, yeah. So again, actors often can become famous without feeling successful, and that speaks to fulfillment, especially if they're not like taking the roles that they're passionate about. That's a big thing. Again, controversy. Sadly, it's a big thing in this world, and in this country and this industry. Of course, some actors will have success with even without like widespread fame, focusing on like personal satisfaction and artistic achievement. So there's again both sides of that gamut. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who are less known but more successful. So you have the person who has a one man show, one person show, one woman show, and they're doing things on Broadway, which is one of the holy grails of acting. They're doing things off Broadway or off Broadway because it's something that they want to do, and they're not necessarily trying to be known for it, and they're getting all the fulfillment in the world, so they get that type of satisfaction and personal achievement. And that means the world to a lot of people. I myself struggle with some of that because I'm sort of in a transitional point between working and trying to break out, I guess, into something that would be a little more known. Yeah, I'm looking for bigger parts, essentially, just as an actor, because again, this is part of me navigating this road to Hollywood myself. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy at all, and I'll get into like actor fatigue in later projects and videos. I believe that that's important, or as Candace Owens says, important. I love how she how she really enunciates her teams like important. I love that. Big Candace Owens fans. Sorry guys. For those who, because I don't know, I think she's awesome. But yeah. And then there comes the fleeting nature of fame. Fame can be a temporary mistress, as it were. More often, it's influenced by different trends and public interest. that's, those are, again, being famous for something rather than, or just being famous to be famous, and no shade to anybody, but, Kardashians, things like that. How it's like how you can be famous for just being famous or just being around a famous person. And yeah, so it's not necessarily like talent driven, but more like spectacle driven. Whereas success often comes from like a long term dedication and like continuous improvement and resilience in whatever industry that you might be in. Those are also just two big contrasts that are driven between fame and success with the fleeting nature of that. And then there's basically public attention versus personal fulfillment. So public attention versus personal fulfillment is kind of crazy to me because fame involves constant public scrutiny. It's the devil that comes along with the blessing sometimes, and which can affect your personal well-being. We've all seen those instances that come from being virally famous, Michael Jacksons of the world, the Elvis Presleys of the world, Jay-Z, Beyonce, insert whoever, Sydney Sweeney, Al Pacino, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, it all kind of creates like a mob of people like that will just kind of watch you. So those are all ones that are kind of like yeah, yes, it's great, and of course it's what they all signed up for, and it's what I would eventually sign up for and kind of pre-signed up for just by getting into this industry. So there's definitely that. Success is more like introspective and tied to your own growth and contentment. Um, these things are again they're also as you can see the parallels between these are all things that could come of them, but also that you don't need to be famous to be successful in these arenas, if you will. Um, and then how do you measure success, right? So again, many actors will do so through metrics that impact audiences, versatility in roles, having different, like, can you play uh, a murderer? Can you play a criminal? Can you play a judge? Can you play a janitor? Can you play a god figure? Because, there's only one god. But can you play like a omnipotent superhero? And then can you play like some sort of introspective, like complicated character? Could you play somebody that has been around? So like a real person. That has always interested me. But it's one of those like you have to be careful with, right? Because people have, if you're playing somebody that has existed in this world, then that means that there are people, like a lot of people who may have known them, and you have to be careful on the how you portray somebody that has been around, lived and died and had friends and family and a footprint in this world. So that's always been an interesting one to me. I would never shy against that, but yes, absolutely. Um, and then fame is basically an external part of that. Like while success often relies on the internal satisfaction and personal milestones. So things to basically consider are actors who are household names, who maybe struggle with their craft because, with their lesser known values, like just, I don't know, like if you, this is no shade to anybody, but like you can insert anybody that you have maybe seen in the public eye that has, that are, you maybe would seem or think that they're less deserved of their spotlight, And ultimately, it's not up to anybody because that opinion could be thrown to anybody at any time. But yeah, you could say that whoever in this art, oh, like, that guy sucks, or that this chick sucks, and they suck, and and then there's gonna be people like, oh, I enjoy them, because you can enjoy somebody's art or entertainment for those two things. You can be entertaining and maybe less artsy, and vice versa, and people will consume that respectfully in both camps, if you will. So you don't necessarily need to be the most talented person in the world to be famous, and then you also don't need to be the the otherwise. Yeah, like you can have both ends of it. There's a lot of bread in the bread aisle. There's room for both. And I want to honestly end with the notion of fame versus success as it goes for myself, because it's easy to say for me, like, oh yeah, this is how I feel, I'm not famous, you know careful, don't make me famous. But yeah, you could honestly, like, you could definitely say to me about me, and I say this about myself, like, well, you have no frame of reference right now because you haven't been in those shoes. So you have no idea. You can say anything you want, but then maybe that'll change, and you could be like so wholesome, and you can have all these values about you, and then you never know if it might flip when you do become famous. So, and that's fair, that you have to definitely give it that respect, because you just never know who you are going to be until you step up to that proverbial plate to be that person or not. All I can do is be who I am at that time, and hopefully rest on my values as a person that I've been brought up as in this world. There's always going to be somebody who has glowing things to say about you, and there's going to be people that have less than glowing things to say about you. There's a saying that if somebody says you're an angel, or if somebody says you're the devil, believe both of them, because they have perspectives that you're not in charge of. So yeah, I mean, I can say all the time, oh man, I would never. I'm going to just keep my nose down. Or you can say the opposite, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of everything. Blah 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 blah. But no, you could be a very wholesome person in the industry, and there's tons of examples. There's less examples of people in Hollywood that are, I guess, more wholesome, because because we like our mess in media. You hear more of the messy scenarios than you do the what most would consider boring scenarios, that they stay out of the public spotlight until it's time to work. I would think I would like to be that. You know, like, I'm married and I have a child on the way. So yeah. And it's something that I wouldn't want to spoil because of fame or success. So I'd rather be successful and out of the way versus be famous. Like, so that's why it's like the name of the show is "Don't Make Me Famous," because it's kind of like a little tongue in cheek, where it's like, yeah, like, don't make me famous. Like, but in certain lights, you can be like, man, don't make me famous. Like, there's that kind of like, because this is what I would do in these situations, and blah 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 blah. So there's a lot of that, and ultimately, we as people every day have to grapple with these choices and decisions that come our way, be they wholesome, be they not so much. You're gonna do what you have to do, or what you think is right at the time. And that's all anybody could ever do. So, with that, we're going to end this. And yeah, so just make smart choices in life. And again, I say this again for as much for myself because I'm very much a person and a human being in this world. So all that shit goes for me as well. So that's basically it. We come to, again, my favorite part of the show, where I get to sleep. So that is, as they call, a wrap, and we'll see you in the next one.